Welcome to Business Mentorship, the channel where success starts with knowledge and habits shape your future. In today's audiobook-style summary. In this audiobook series, we explore powerful ideas from the world's best business and self-development books. We're diving deep into the best-selling book Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is not just a book, it's a blueprint for mastering the tiny changes that lead to remarkable results. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a corporate leader, or just someone seeking personal growth, this episode will arm you with actionable insights you can start using today. Get comfortable. Grab a notebook or just listen in. This is your mentorship session. Chapter 1. The Power of Atomic Habits. Let's start with a simple truth. Meaningful change doesn't require massive action. It begins with small, almost invisible steps. James Clear calls these atomic habits, tiny decisions and behaviors that compound over time to produce remarkable results. Imagine a room where the temperature is below freezing. You light a small candle, then another, and another. The temperature slowly rises. 26 degrees, 27, 28. Still, nothing seems to happen. Then, at 32 degrees, the ice on the table begins to melt. That final degree wasn't special. It was the result of all the small degrees before it. This is how habits work. Quiet progress that leads to sudden breakthroughs. Clear writes, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as money grows through compound interest, the effects of your daily habits multiply when repeated consistently. 1% better each day doesn't sound like much. But over a year, you won't just be better. You'll be 37 times better. That's the power of small improvements done consistently. Unfortunately, we often fail to stick with habits because we don't see results quickly. We go to the gym for a week and see no change. We publish videos or content and see little engagement, so we quit. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. It's the long, quiet stretch where it seems like nothing is happening. But something is happening. Under the surface. Change is building. And if you persist, you'll eventually reach the tipping point where the results become visible. This concept applies directly to business. Maybe you're optimizing a sales funnel. Maybe you're improving your content strategy. At first it feels like you're wasting time, but over weeks and months, those small system improvements add up. Eventually, the results begin to snowball. This is why Clear warns, complaining about not achieving success despite working hard is like complaining about an ice cube not melting when you heated it from 25 to 31 degrees. You weren't failing. You just hadn't reached 32. Here's a key lesson from Chapter 1. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Most people focus on goals, hit a certain revenue, gain a certain number of followers, lose a certain amount of weight. Goals are useful for direction, but systems are what actually get results. A goal might be to publish weekly videos. A system is the process you use to script, record, edit, and upload. Systems are the real engine of progress. The most transformative idea in Atomic Habits is this. Every habit is a vote for the kind of person or organization you want to become. Want to become a great leader? Start acting like one every day. Want your brand to be known for quality? Make quality the default in everything you create. Each action, no matter how small, reinforces your identity. This is called identity-based habits. The goal is not to run a marathon. It's to become a runner. The goal is not to close one big deal. It's to become a consistent closer. With every small habit, you are becoming someone new. Let's look at a real example. For years, British cycling was a national embarrassment. Then they hired Dave Brailsford, who focused on what he called the aggregation of marginal gains. 1% improvements in every area. Bike tires, hand washing, sleep quality, training habits. These small upgrades led to domination in the Olympics and Tour de France. Tiny gains. Massive results. Or consider Starbucks. They didn't just train baristas to make coffee. They created habit-based systems for managing stress, handling complaints, and delivering a consistent experience. Over time, this became part of their identity. Not just a coffee brand, but a reliable, repeatable system for service. Here's the takeaway. Success is not about massive motivation or intense hustle. It's about daily, deliberate habits. It's about designing systems that make success inevitable. To close this chapter, let me give you 3 action steps you can apply today. 1. Identify one area in your business or personal life where you're inconsistent. What is one habit that could improve that area by just 1%? 2. Don't just set a goal. Design a system. Define the repeatable steps that make success automatic. 3. Focus on consistency, not perfection. Track your progress. And when you fall off, don't miss twice. Remember, change doesn't happen all at once. Ice doesn't melt at 31 degrees. But keep applying heat, and the breakthrough will come. This concludes Chapter 1 of Atomic Habits. In the next chapter, we'll explore how identity shapes behavior, and how to become the kind of person your goals require. Chapter 2. How Habits Shape Your Identity, and Vice Versa. The real power of atomic habits lies not in what they help you achieve, but in who they help you become. Most people approach change by focusing on outcomes. They say, I want to lose weight, I want to write a book, or I want to earn more money. But James Clear argues that true, lasting change starts at a deeper level: your identity. There are 3 layers to behavior change. The first layer is outcomes. This is the result you're aiming for: losing weight, building a business, or learning a new skill. The second layer is processes. These are the systems and habits you build, the things you do regularly that create those results. But the deepest layer is identity. This is your self-image, what you believe about yourself, who you think you are. Clear explains that most people try to change their outcomes, but never shift their identity, and as a result, their changes don't last. For example, someone might say, I want to run a marathon, and they train hard for months, but once the race is over, the habit falls apart, because their identity was tied to the goal, not to becoming a runner. If you want lasting change, you must start with identity. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, ask yourself, who do I want to become? When you begin identifying as the kind of person who embodies the habit, the behavior becomes more natural. Writing 1 page makes you a writer. Running for 10 minutes makes you a runner. Making 1 cold call makes you a business builder. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Over time, these votes accumulate. With enough repetition, you begin to believe in your new identity. You're no longer just acting like someone who's organized or driven or professional. You are that person because you've built up enough evidence to support the belief. This is why habits that are tied to your identity are so powerful. They are not just something you do. They are a reflection of who you are. Clear also points out that identity can work against you if it's rooted in a limiting belief. For example, if you believe I'm terrible at sales, you'll act in ways that confirm that belief. You'll avoid outreach. You'll lack confidence. You won't improve because your identity holds you back. That's why it's essential to build a positive identity through action. The goal is not to fake confidence or affirm something you don't believe. The goal is to prove it to yourself through small wins, over and over. Identity is not set in stone. It's built, brick by brick, through behavior. Clear gives a simple formula: identity, habits, results. But you can also reverse engineer this: results, habits, identity. By consistently performing the habit, you begin to see yourself differently. You don't wait for a belief to magically appear. You earn it. You become the kind of person who does the habit consistently. This concept has powerful implications for business, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Want to build a high-performing team? Create an identity of excellence, reliability, and growth. Then build habits around it. Want to become a trusted leader? Don't just read leadership books. Start acting like the leader you aspire to be. Speak clearly. Follow through. Show up early. Build that identity, one small action at a time. Here's the key takeaway from this chapter. If you want better results, don't start with goals. Start with identity. Every habit you build should reinforce the kind of person or professional you want to become. And if you want to change who you are, change what you do. Chapter 3. How to Build Better Habits. In 4 simple steps. Every habit you have, good or bad, follows the same pattern: cue, craving, response, and reward. James Clear calls this the habit loop, and understanding it is the foundation for building better habits and breaking bad ones. The cue is what triggers the habit. It could be something you see, a feeling, a time of day, or a location. For example, hearing your alarm go off is a cue to get out of bed. Walking into your kitchen may cue you to grab a snack. These are automatic, often invisible signals that tell your brain, it's time to act. Next comes the craving. You don't crave the habit itself. You crave the change in state it brings. You don't crave brushing your teeth. You crave a fresh, clean feeling. You don't crave scrolling through Instagram. You crave a moment of distraction or entertainment. Cravings are what motivate every habit. Then there's the response, the actual behavior. It's what you do. You roll out of bed. You open the fridge. You reach for your phone. If the behavior is easy enough and you're sufficiently motivated, you follow through. Finally, the reward. This is the part that satisfies your craving and tells your brain, that felt good, let's do it again. The reward reinforces the IUE, habit loop, and makes it more likely you'll repeat the behavior next time. To build better habits, James Clear introduces 4 simple laws that align with each part of this loop. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it satisfying. Let's dive into each one with real-world examples so you can apply them in your life and business. Law 1. Make it obvious. This step is all about identifying and designing your cues. You can't change a habit if you don't know what's triggering it. One of the most powerful tools here is the implementation intention. Instead of vague goals like, I'll start meditating, you commit to a specific plan. I will meditate for 2 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room. This format, I will behavior at time in location, gives your brain a clear and actionable signal. Another strategy is habit stacking. You pair a new habit with one you already do. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll stretch for 30 seconds. Or, after I pour my morning coffee, I'll open my planner. These connections make it easier to build momentum because the cue is already built into your day. Environmental design also plays a huge role. Make the cues for good habits impossible to miss. If you want to remember to take your vitamins, put them next to your toothbrush. If you want to drink more water, leave a glass on your desk. The goal is to make the habit so obvious you can't ignore it. Law 2. Make it attractive. We are more likely to do things that feel good. To build better habits, you must make them more appealing. One way to do this is through temptation bundling. You pair something you want to do with something you need to do. Only watch your favorite show while on the treadmill. Only listen to your favorite podcast while cleaning. This strategy turns something that might feel like a chore into something you look forward to. Social influence is another powerful motivator. Join groups where your desired behavior is the norm. If everyone in your circle reads daily, exercises, or builds businesses, you're far more likely to do the same. We imitate those around us. Surround yourself with people who live the way you want to live. You can also reframe your mindset to make habits more attractive. Instead of saying, I have to work out, say, I get to move my body and become stronger. Focus on the benefits. Make it something to be proud of, not something to dread. Law 3. Make it easy. When it comes to habits, simplicity wins. The easier a behavior is, the more likely you'll repeat it. The 2-minute rule is key here. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to start. Want to journal? Just open your notebook and write 1 sentence. Want to read more? Read 1 paragraph. These gateway habits reduce friction and get you into motion. Once you've started, it's much easier to keep going. Another powerful tactic is environment optimization. If you want to build a writing habit, leave your notebook open on your desk. If you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before. Remove the barriers. Make good choices the path of least resistance. Also, automate what you can. Use technology to schedule payments, reminders, or tasks. The less effort required, the more likely the habit will stick. People don't rise to the level of their goals. They fall to the level of their systems. Simplicity is the system that works. Law 4. Make it satisfying. If a habit feels good, you're more likely to do it again. This is the reward, the final step of the loop. Our brains crave immediate rewards. That's why bad habits are often more appealing. They feel good now, even if they hurt you later. The key to building better habits is to find a way to make them feel rewarding right away. 1. Tactic is habit tracking. Use a calendar or app to check off your habits. Seeing the progress builds momentum and creates a visual incentive. You don't want to break the chain. You can also use immediate rewards. After a deep work session, give yourself a small treat or a 5-minute break. Celebrate small wins. The goal is to create a positive association with the behavior. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, make it unsatisfying. Add friction. Add accountability. Tell a friend what you're trying to change and report your progress. If you mess up, introduce a consequence, like donating to a cause you don't like. The more unpleasant the habit becomes, the easier it is to avoid. Here's a quick recap of the 4 laws and how to apply them to both good and bad habits. To build a good habit, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. 2. Break a bad habit. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, make it unsatisfying. This framework is powerful because it's simple, practical, and scalable. Whether you're building a personal habit like reading or a business system like customer follow-up, the same rules apply. Habits are not a finish line to cross, but a lifestyle to live. Master these 4 laws, and you'll gain control over your daily behavior. One small, sustainable change at a time. Chapter 4. The Truth About Progress. Why Small Habits Make a Big Difference. We often expect change to be fast and dramatic. But in reality, the most powerful transformations come from small, consistent habits over time. James Clear explains that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them day after day. A 1% improvement may seem insignificant today, but over the course of a year, it can lead to massive change. Here's the hard truth. Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy. Imagine this. If you can get just 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the end. But if you get 1% worse each day, you'll spiral downward until you're barely recognizable. The difference between success and failure is often just a few small choices, consistently applied. Yet, here's the challenge. The results of these habits often don't show up right away. This leads to what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. It's the phase where you're putting in the work, going to the gym, writing every day, saving money, but it feels like nothing is happening. You start to doubt yourself. You wonder if the effort is worth it. You think the system is broken. But progress is not linear. The most meaningful outcomes are delayed. Change happens gradually, and then all at once. The plateau of latent potential is like heating an ice cube in a cold room. Imagine the room is at 28 degrees. You raise the temperature to 29, then 30, then 31. Still, nothing happens. But when the temperature hits 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. That's the breakthrough moment. But the work was happening all along. The key insight here is that habits need time to show their full power. What you need is patience and faith in the system. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your life, but as the votes accumulate, so does your identity. That's why small habits matter so much. They don't just lead to results, they shape who you are. Clear emphasizes that the real goal is not just to build better habits, it's to build a better identity. You're not trying to run a marathon. You're trying to become a runner. You're not trying to write a book. You're becoming a writer. Identity change is the deepest level of habit transformation. There are 3 levels of change: outcomes, processes, and identity. Most people focus on outcomes. They want to lose weight, write a book, start a business. These are external results. Others focus on processes, building systems and routines to support the goal. This is better, but still not deep enough. The most powerful change happens at the identity level. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Here's the shift. Don't ask, what outcome do I want? Ask, what kind of person would achieve that outcome? Once you've identified the type of person you want to be, every habit becomes a vote toward that identity. Want to become a healthy person? Every time you work out, you're casting a vote for that version of yourself. Want to become a successful entrepreneur? Every time you take action, plan, or study your field, you reinforce that identity. It's a simple but profound concept. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you believe you are. And the reverse is true as well. Skipping the gym is a vote for being inactive. Scrolling social media instead of working is a vote against productivity. Your habits shape your identity. And your identity, in turn, shapes your habits. The process is not about perfection. You don't need to cast a unanimous vote to become someone new. You just need to build a majority. So, how do you start? You start with small wins, a tiny habit, a small shift. You write one sentence. You do one push-up. You save $1. You introduce yourself to one new person. It may seem too small to matter, but remember, the effects of habits compound over time. Small decisions, repeated consistently, are what change your life. This chapter teaches us that success is not about intensity. It's about consistency. Not about huge leaps, but about steady steps. Not about quick results, but about quiet persistence. The greatest threat to success is not failure. It's boredom. The slow grind of improvement can feel dull. But mastery is built through repetition. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Progress is not always visible in the beginning. That doesn't mean it's not happening. The seeds you plant today may not bloom for weeks or months, but they will bloom if you keep watering them. So keep showing up. Keep casting votes for the person you want to become. Every small habit matters, and in time, the breakthrough will come. That's the power of atomic habits. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit. When it comes to forming new habits, most people rely on motivation. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. The better strategy is to rely on something far more predictable: your environment and your plan. James Clear introduces two powerful techniques in this chapter: implementation intentions and habit stacking. Let's start with implementation intentions. This is a strategy where you decide in advance exactly when and where you'll perform a new habit. Instead of saying, "I want to exercise more," you define the behavior with precision. For example, I will work out for 30 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room. I will journal for 5 minutes after I pour my morning coffee. I will study Spanish flashcards at 8 p.m. at my desk. Why does this work? Because vague intentions rarely lead to consistent action. You're far more likely to follow through when your plan is clear and concrete. When you know exactly what to do, when to do it, and where it happens, your brain doesn't have to negotiate or make decisions in the moment. The path is already decided. This technique has been tested and proven across a wide range of behaviors, from voting to dieting to exercising and even medical adherence. People who use implementation intentions are significantly more likely to follow through on their goals. Now let's look at habit stacking. This is another strategy for making habits stick. It works by anchoring a new habit onto an existing one. You take something you already do consistently and stack your new habit on top of it. The formula is simple. After current habit, I will new habit. Examples: after I brush my teeth, I will floss. After I start the coffee machine, I will read one page of a book. After I sit down at my desk, I will write my to-do list. The brilliance of habit stacking is that it uses the momentum of your current routines to carry new habits with them. You're not starting from scratch. You're piggybacking off of something that already happens every day. But not all cues are created equal. When stacking habits, your current habit must be specific and consistent. Something like, I wake up is too vague, but I turn off my alarm or I pour my coffee are specific enough to serve as a clear cue. This strategy taps into the power of your existing routine. You don't have to rethink your schedule. You simply plug your new habit into a spot that already exists. Over time, it becomes automatic. Together, implementation intentions and habit stacking give you a powerful 1-2 punch. Implementation intentions help you define exactly when and where your habit happens. Habit stacking helps you insert new habits into routines you already follow. Here's how you might combine them. After I brush my teeth at 7 a.m. in the bathroom, I will stretch for 1 minute. That sentence contains a cue, brushing teeth, a time, 7 a.m., a location, bathroom, and the new behavior, stretching. It's specific, it's actionable, it's repeatable, and it's easy. James Clear emphasizes that habits are easier to build when they fit into the flow of your daily life. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need to embed small changes into the structure that already exists. Your brain craves consistency. Every time you repeat a behavior in a specific context, your brain forms a tighter connection between the cue and the action. The more consistent the pairing, the stronger the habit becomes. The goal is to make the new behavior feel inevitable. And here's a powerful bonus. Once a habit is established, it becomes a gateway to more. You might start with, after I pour my coffee, I'll read 1 page of a book. But soon, 1 page turns into 2, then 5, then a chapter. Before long, reading becomes part of your identity. This is the beauty of starting small and stacking your habits. It's not about willpower, it's about structure. It's not about trying harder. It's about designing your life in a way that makes good habits easier to start and stick. In this chapter, Clear makes it clear. The best way to start a new habit isn't to wait for motivation. It's to create a clear plan and plug your new habit into an existing routine. So if you want to start a habit today, don't just hope for the best. Write it down, make it specific, stack it onto something you already do, and let the system do the heavy lifting. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters. More, when people struggle to build better habits, they often blame a lack of motivation. But the real problem isn't motivation, it's the environment. James Clear makes a powerful point in this chapter. Our environment shapes our behavior far more than we realize. In fact, many of our daily actions are not driven by conscious choice, but by visual cues in our surroundings. Consider this. If a plate of cookies is on the kitchen counter, you're more likely to grab one. If a book is on your pillow, you're more likely to read before bed. These are examples of environmental design, arranging your space to encourage the behaviors you want and discourage the ones you don't. The brain is a prediction machine. It constantly scans the environment for cues that signal what to do next. These cues can be incredibly subtle, but they trigger powerful automatic behaviors. So, if you want to build better habits, you need to make the cues for good habits visible and obvious, and remove the cues for bad habits whenever possible. Let's break this down with practical examples. If you want to eat healthier, don't just rely on willpower. Redesign your environment. Put a bowl of fruit on the kitchen counter. Move junk food to the back of the pantry. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. If you want to practice guitar more often, don't leave it in the closet. Put it on a stand in the middle of your living room. When you see it, you'll be reminded to play. Want to drink more water? Keep a full water bottle next to your computer. Want to work out in the morning? Lay out your clothes and shoes the night before. James Clear calls this concept environmental priming. It's about planting visual reminders in the places where the habit should happen. You're setting up your surroundings so the desired action becomes the path of least resistance. This works because the environment influences your behavior even when you're not consciously aware of it. In fact, studies show that simply changing the layout of a cafeteria, placing water bottles near the cash register and soda elsewhere, can significantly increase water consumption without changing anyone's motivation. It's not that people suddenly became health conscious. The environment just made the healthier option easier. There's also a concept called context-dependent memory. This means behaviors are often tied to specific locations or situations. If you usually check your phone in bed, just lying in bed can become a cue to reach for it, even if you don't really want to. If you smoke in your car, just sitting in the driver's seat can trigger the craving. This is why it can be difficult to break bad habits in the same environment where they were formed. The surroundings carry invisible associations. One powerful solution is to create separate spaces for separate habits. For example, use a specific chair or corner of the room just for reading. Designate one table for eating meals and another space for work. If possible, avoid working from bed or watching TV at your desk. When each behavior has its own space, the cues become stronger and more focused. You're training your brain to associate each location with a particular action. Of course, not everyone has the luxury of a big house or multiple rooms. That's okay. Even small distinctions can work. You can face a different direction when doing a task, or use different lighting, or put on specific headphones for certain activities. The goal is simple. Make good habits easier by shaping your environment to support them. And the reverse is true as well. If you want to break a bad habit, make the cues less visible or remove them altogether. If you want to watch less TV, unplug it after each use or put the remote in a drawer. If you want to use your phone less, keep it in another room while you work. If you want to cut back on snacks, don't bring them into the house. James Clear writes, "You don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. You have more control than you think." Instead of relying on self-discipline, build systems and spaces that guide you toward the behaviors you want. Here's a practical tip from this chapter. Redesign one room in your home or workspace to support a habit you're trying to build. Start small. If you want to journal more, keep your notebook and pen on your pillow. If you want to eat better, prepare your meals in advance and store them in easy-to-reach containers. The best way to change behavior is not by changing your mind, but by changing your surroundings. The key idea from this chapter is simple, but powerful. Make the cues for good habits obvious, and the cues for bad habits invisible. When your environment works for you, not against you, success becomes effortless. You no longer have to force change. You just start living it. One visual cue at a time. Chapter 7. The Secret to Self-Control in Chapter 7. James Clear tackles one of the most common struggles people face when trying to build better habits: self-control. More specifically, why self-control often fails and what actually works better. Let's be honest, most of us believe that people with strong habits have extraordinary willpower. We admire them for their discipline and assume they've simply mastered self-control. But as Clear reveals, that's not the full story. The people with the best self-control tend to use it the least. Why? Because they've designed their environment in a way that removes the temptation before it ever arrives. They don't rely on willpower in the moment. They rely on preparation. Let's break that down with examples. Imagine two people trying to eat healthier. One keeps cookies, chips, and soda in the kitchen. The other clears their pantry of junk food and stocks it with fruits, veggies, and healthy snacks. When a craving hits at 9 p.m., who's more likely to stay on track? The second person, not because they have more willpower, but because their environment doesn't trigger temptation. They've reduced friction in advance. James Clear references a famous study on addiction and environment. During the Vietnam War, over 20% of U.S. soldiers were using heroin overseas. This caused major concern back home. But when those soldiers returned to the U.S., the majority, nearly 9 out of 10, simply stopped using heroin. No rehab, no long struggle. Why? Because their environment changed. The cues, routines, and surroundings that triggered drug use were left behind. This shows the power of context. Habits are often tied to the places and people around them. If you always eat popcorn when watching TV, then sitting on the couch becomes a cue. If you always check your phone at red lights, then being in the car becomes a trigger. Self-control is not about being stronger in the face of temptation. It's about avoiding the temptation altogether. This brings us to one of the most important principles in the book. Disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. Here are a few practical ways to apply this idea. Want to reduce screen time? Leave your phone in another room while you work. Want to stop procrastinating? Block distracting websites or use tools like website blockers. Want to avoid junk food? Don't buy it in the first place. If it's not in your home, it's easier to resist. Want to drink less alcohol? Don't keep it in the house or avoid bars altogether. In psychology, there's a concept known as inversion. Instead of asking, "How can I develop more self-control?" Ask, how can I design a life where I need it less? This flips the problem from internal effort to external structure. It's not about resisting, it's about removing. One helpful exercise from this chapter is to identify the habits you're struggling with and then ask yourself, what triggers this habit? Where am I when it happens? Who am I with? What time is it? What emotional state am I in? Once you identify the cues, you can start to remove or redesign them. This is the true path to freedom from bad habits. Not willpower, but awareness and design. Clear puts it, you can break a habit, but you're unlikely to forget it. That means that simply resisting temptation is an ineffective strategy. It's hard to maintain a Zen-like willpower when you're staring a cookie in the face. To succeed, make the cues for bad habits invisible. Make the default behavior one that aligns with your long-term goals. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you want to stop checking social media in bed. Move your phone charger to another room. Now, instead of scrolling at midnight, you're more likely to go to sleep. You've just changed the outcome, not by trying harder, but by removing the cue. This is the ultimate secret to self-control. Avoid temptation entirely, and you won't have to fight it. And remember, good habits thrive in environments designed to support them. Bad habits die when their cues are cut off. So don't ask yourself how to be more disciplined. Ask how to be more strategic. Self-control isn't about being a superhero. It's about being a smart architect of your life. Chapter 8. How to make a habit irresistible. If you've ever wondered why some habits stick while others fade, the answer lies in a principle Clear explores in this chapter: temptation bundling. We are more likely to repeat behaviors that feel rewarding. The more satisfying a habit feels, the more likely we are to do it again. That's the basis of the second law of behavior change. Make it attractive. James Clear introduces the idea of temptation bundling, a method where you pair an action you want to do with one you need to do. This is rooted in a psychological principle called Premack's principle, which suggests that more probable behaviors can reinforce less probable ones. Let's break it down with examples. Only allow yourself to watch Netflix while doing the laundry. Listen to your favorite podcast while going for a walk. Enjoy a coffee only after you finish writing your daily journal entry. This strategy rewires your brain to associate a habit with pleasure. You're essentially giving yourself a built-in reward. But it doesn't stop there. Clear also talks about the role of social environments. We tend to imitate three groups of people: the close, family, friends, peers; the many, the tribe, the majority; the powerful, those we admire or respect. If you want to adopt a new habit, surround yourself with people who already do it. Want to read more? Join a book club. Want to exercise? Hang out with fit friends. Habits are contagious. Clear's advice is clear. Make your habits attractive by associating them with positive emotions and people who reinforce them. This creates a craving, not just for the habit itself, but for the identity that comes with it. Chapter 9. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. This chapter dives deeper into how our social circles shape our behaviors. Humans are hardwired for connection. We seek belonging, and in doing so, we often adjust our habits, consciously or unconsciously, to match the people around us. Clear explains that your habits are often a reflection of the culture you belong to. If your group values fitness, you're more likely to work out. If your team always goes for drinks after work, you might drink more, even if it's not something you'd do alone. This leads to one of the most important ideas in the book. It's easier to adopt habits that align with your desired social identity. So, if you want to build a habit that sticks, find a group where that behavior is the norm. Not doing the behavior feels like falling behind. For example, if you join a running club, skipping a run doesn't just disappoint you, it separates you from your tribe. If your friends all meditate daily, it feels natural to meditate too. Clear suggests that to change your habits, change your group. Surround yourself with people who reflect the future you want, and if that's not immediately possible, even engaging with online communities that support your goal can be effective. Our deepest urge is to belong, so use that drive to your advantage by linking your new habits to group norms and identities that support your growth. Chapter 10. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. In this chapter, Clear addresses the root of bad habits, cravings, and emotions. Every habit is driven by a desire to change how we feel. We don't just eat junk food. We eat to feel comfort. We don't just scroll social media. We scroll to feel connected or distracted. The problem? Most of us never examine the emotional triggers behind our habits. James Clear explains, you don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief it provides. You're not motivated by brushing your teeth. You're motivated by the feeling of a clean mouth. The solution is to become aware of the underlying emotion that drives each bad habit. Ask, am I bored? Am I stressed? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Once you identify the emotion, you can start to replace the habit with a healthier one that satisfies the same craving. For example, if you snack when bored, replace it with a walk or a phone call. If you check your phone when anxious, try deep breathing or journaling. Clear emphasizes that you can't eliminate cravings, but you can train yourself to respond differently. One tactic he suggests is called reframing. Instead of saying, I have to do this, say, I get to do this. This subtle change helps rewire how your brain sees the task. It becomes a privilege, not a burden. At the core of this chapter is a powerful message. The key to breaking bad habits is not resistance. It's awareness. You don't need to be stronger. You need to be more mindful of what you really want in the moment. Chapter 11. Walk slowly, but never backward. In this chapter, James Clear highlights one of the most important concepts in habit formation. Consistency beats intensity. It's easy to get excited about a new habit and go all in at the beginning. Hitting the gym 7 days a week, writing 2,000 words daily, or reading a book a week. But that kind of energy is often unsustainable. Clear argues that real mastery doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from small, repeated actions over time. In fact, showing up, even on your worst days, is more valuable than performing perfectly. Let's look at an example. Imagine two writers. One writes a single paragraph every day, even when uninspired. The other writes only when they feel a burst of motivation. Who improves more over time? The first one, because consistency builds identity, discipline, and momentum. Clear shares a powerful quote. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. This is why systems matter more than outcomes. If your goal is to run a marathon, but you don't have a training routine, you'll never get there. But if you build a system, running every morning, tracking your progress, eating well, the result becomes inevitable. The lesson? Small habits, repeated daily, compound into massive results. It's not about intensity. It's about never quitting. Even when progress feels slow, you're laying the foundation for long-term growth. Chapter 12. The Law of Least Effort. Here, Clear introduces a principle from nature that applies directly to human behavior. We are wired to follow the path of least resistance. In other words, we naturally gravitate toward the easiest option, the one that requires the least effort. If a habit feels hard to do, we'll likely avoid it. If it feels easy, we'll do it almost without thinking. This brings us to the third law of behavior change. Make it easy. So, how do we apply this? Clear offers practical strategies like reduce friction, make good habits easier to start. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow. Want to eat healthy? Prep meals in advance. Prime your environment. Set up your space to support your goals. Want to exercise in the morning? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Use the 2-minute rule. This is powerful. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to begin. The idea is to scale the habit down to its simplest form. Instead of go for a 5-mile run, start with put on my running shoes. Instead of write a novel, start with write 1 sentence. The point isn't to do less, it's to lower the entry point. Once you start, momentum takes over. As Clear puts it, standardize before you optimize. You can't improve a habit that doesn't exist. In essence, make the desired behavior the default behavior. The easier it is to do, the more likely you'll stick with it. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. This chapter is entirely focused on one of the most powerful tools in the book, the 2-minute rule. Clear understands that the hardest part of building a habit is often just getting started. The 2-minute rule makes this friction almost disappear. Here's the rule. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. At first, this might sound silly. What's the point of writing just one sentence? Or flossing one tooth? But the goal isn't performance, it's activation. The hardest part of running is putting on your shoes. The hardest part of reading is opening the book. The hardest part of working out is getting off the couch. If you can master the art of starting, the rest becomes much easier. Here are some examples of how to scale down habits. Read before bed each night becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Study for class becomes open my notebook. Run after work becomes tie my running shoes. Clear reminds us that a habit must be established before it can be improved. You can't optimize what doesn't exist, but here's the key. The 2-minute rule isn't about staying small forever. It's about building consistency first. Once a habit becomes part of your identity, you'll naturally expand it. In time, writing one sentence turns into writing an entire chapter. Running for 2 minutes turns into a 5-mile jog. Reading 1 page turns into finishing a whole book. The power lies in creating a gateway habit, one that leads to something bigger without feeling overwhelming. So if you've been procrastinating, the solution isn't to work harder, it's to work smarter, by lowering the activation energy. Start small. Show up. Let momentum do the rest. Chapter 14. How to make good habits. Inevitable and bad habits. Impossible. In this chapter, James Clear introduces one of the most powerful strategies for long-term habit change: commitment devices. A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that locks in better behavior for the future. It's a way of putting barriers between you and your bad habits, while making good habits almost automatic. Clear explains that willpower is weak when it's tested in the moment. But if you can make a decision before the temptation arises, you can shape your environment in a way that guarantees better outcomes. Let's look at some examples. Want to save money? Automate transfers to a savings account, so you never see the money in your checking account. Want to stop using social media? Delete the apps from your phone or use blockers like Freedom or Cold Turkey to schedule distraction-free time. Want to eat healthier? Subscribe to a healthy meal plan that delivers food to your home. The goal is to make bad habits impossible or very inconvenient, and good habits as effortless as possible. Another concept Clear introduces is habit contracts. This is when you create a written agreement with yourself or someone else that outlines your commitment and includes consequences if you don't follow through. For example, if I don't go to the gym 3 times this week, I'll pay my friend $50. If I miss 2 days of writing, I'll donate to a cause I don't believe in. By raising the stakes, you create accountability. The fear of social or financial loss adds urgency and seriousness. The key takeaway? Make good habits the path of least resistance. Make bad habits painful or difficult. That's how you shift from relying on willpower to relying on structure. Chapter 15. The 4th law. Make it satisfying. So far, the first 3 laws of behavior change have been: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy. Now we arrive at the 4th law. Make it satisfying. Clear explains that humans are hardwired to seek immediate rewards. Our brains evolved in a world where instant feedback helped us survive. Finding food, escaping danger, seeking warmth. As a result, we repeat actions that feel good in the moment, even if they're bad long-term. This is why bad habits are so appealing. Smoking, junk food, and scrolling social media all offer immediate gratification. Meanwhile, good habits like exercising, saving money, or eating healthy often have delayed rewards. So how do we make good habits more satisfying right now? Clear suggests using immediate reinforcement, creating a small, positive reward right after completing a habit. For you, example, after going to the gym, mark a big X on your calendar, a visual signal of success. After saving money, transfer a small bonus to a fun account for later use. After studying, enjoy a small treat or relaxing activity. The point is to associate the habit with pleasure, not pain. When something feels good, we naturally want to repeat it. Another strategy is habit tracking, using a calendar, app, or journal to mark your progress. This creates a visual cue and gives your brain the dopamine hit it craves. The real reward? The feeling of progress. Even small wins signal that you're on the right path, which reinforces your identity. Clear writes, "Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. So if you want your habits to stick, make them immediately satisfying. Make progress visible, and celebrate the fact that every small action moves you closer to your ideal identity." Chapter 16. How to Stick with Good Habits. Every day, this chapter is all about consistency and how to keep your habits alive through good days, bad days, and everything in between. James Clear begins by discussing habit tracking, one of the simplest and most effective ways to reinforce a behavior. Why does it work? Because it makes progress visible. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. And most importantly, it creates a form of accountability, even if it's only to yourself. Clear suggests using tools like a calendar to X off days you complete, a habit journal to track your wins, an app like Habitica, Streaks, or Habit Bull. The goal isn't perfection, it's momentum, and this leads to one of the most powerful rules in the book. Never miss twice. Missing one day is a mistake. Missing 2 days becomes a new habit. Let's say you skip one workout. No big deal. Life happens, but if you skip 2 in a row, you're training your brain to expect failure. That's when the habit starts to unravel. So, protect your streak. Even if you don't have time for a full workout, do 5 push-ups. Even if you can't write a full page, write 1 sentence. The secret is to scale down the habit, not skip it entirely. Clear also warns about the yo-yo mindset, the belief that habits have to be perfect to be worthwhile. But habits are like investing. The best results come from consistency, not perfection. As he writes, missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. So don't aim for flawless, aim for resilient. The most successful people aren't perfect. They're just quick to bounce back. Chapter 17. How an accountability partner can change everything. In this chapter, James Clear introduces one of the most effective, yet often overlooked, tools for habit formation: accountability. While habits often begin in solitude, the ones that stick are usually reinforced by social connection. That's where accountability comes in. An accountability partner is someone who holds you to your word. Their job is simple: check in, offer encouragement, and make sure you do what you said you would do. Clear explains that we care deeply about how we're perceived by others. That social pressure, when used correctly, becomes a powerful force for good. For example, if you tell your gym buddy you'll meet them at 6 a.m., you're far less likely to hit snooze. If you promise your business partner a draft by Friday, you'll find the time to get it done. If you join a writing group and commit to sharing weekly work, you'll stay productive. The fear of disappointing someone else is often greater than the fear of failing yourself. But it's not just about fear. Accountability also adds structure and consistency. Here's a great tip from Clear. Create a habit. Contract with your accountability partner. Outline what you'll do, how often, and what the consequence will be if you don't follow through. For example, I will go to the gym 3 times a week. If I miss, I'll pay you $50. Suddenly, skipping the gym has a real cost. It's a simple concept, but the results are profound. Clear writes, knowing that someone else is watching you can be a powerful motivator. So if you're serious about change, don't rely on willpower alone. Add accountability to your system. Chapter 18. The Truth About Talent. When genes matter and when they don't. This chapter shifts focus slightly, exploring the role of genetics in habit formation and performance. Clear acknowledges an important truth. We are not all the same. Our physical bodies, mental wiring, personalities, and inclinations are shaped by our genes. But here's the empowering part. Your genes may determine where you'll thrive, but your habits determine whether you'll succeed. For example, a naturally energetic person may find it easier to form an exercise habit. Someone with an analytical mind might enjoy habits around planning or problem solving. An extrovert might gravitate toward networking or public speaking routines. The key, Clear says, is to align your habits with your natural abilities and inclinations. Instead of forcing yourself into habits that feel unnatural, lean into what you're good at. That's where habits become not only easier, but more enjoyable. Clear introduces the idea of the Goldilocks rule, the sweet spot of difficulty. You want habits that are not too easy, or you'll get bored, not too hard, or you'll give up, but just right, challenging enough to keep you engaged. That's the zone of maximum growth. He also reminds us, talent counts, but effort counts more. Your genes provide a starting point, but your choices, the habits you build every day, determine your trajectory. As Clear puts it, genes do not eliminate the need for hard work. They clarify it. They tell us what to work hard on. So don't wish for different traits. Work with the ones you have. Optimize your habits around your strengths. Chapter 19. The Goldilocks Rule. How to stay motivated in life and work in this chapter. James Clear builds on the Goldilocks rule introduced earlier and focuses on staying motivated over the long term. Clear reveals a fascinating insight from psychology. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are just beyond their current ability. Too easy, and we get bored. Too hard, and we get discouraged. But when a challenge is just slightly out of reach, we enter a zone called flow, total engagement, focus, and enjoyment. This has powerful implications for habits. To keep a habit alive, you must keep it challenging, but manageable. This means regularly adjusting your habits to match your skill level. For example, if you're a writer, aim for slightly more words than last week. If you're a runner, try shaving 10 seconds off your mile. If you're saving money, gradually increase your weekly savings goal. This steady, incremental growth keeps motivation high. Clear also emphasizes the importance of measuring progress. When we can see improvement, even in small ways, it fuels a feedback loop of satisfaction and effort. But there's another layer: professionalism over passion. Passion gets you started. Professionalism keeps you going. Clear writes, the only way to become excellent is to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over. You have to fall in love with boredom. That's the truth few people talk about. The best performers aren't always the most passionate. They're the ones who keep showing up, even when it's dull, repetitive, or hard. They don't chase motivation. They build systems. So the next time you feel bored with your habits, remember, that's a sign you're on the right track. Boredom isn't a signal to quit. It's a cue to go deeper. Chapter 20. The downside of creating good habits. Up to this point, James Clear has focused on the power of habits to transform our lives for the better. But in this chapter, he acknowledges an important truth. Even good habits have a downside if we're not careful. The danger: falling into autopilot. Once a habit becomes automatic, we risk losing awareness. We stop improving. We settle for good enough. Clear warns that habits can create a false sense of mastery. You might assume that just because you've done something many times, you're doing it well. But this isn't always the case. For example, a pianist may play the same songs every day, but stop improving. A salesperson may give the same pitch repeatedly, but not close more deals. A writer may hit their word count, but never elevate the quality. Habits create efficiency, but deliberate practice creates excellence. To grow, we must continually evaluate and refine our habits, even the good ones. Clear calls this the process of reflection and review. He recommends building regular time into your routine to analyze your performance. Identify small areas for improvement. Adjust your systems to stay sharp. This helps you avoid what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. Without regular evaluation, you hit a ceiling. But with focused review, you continue climbing. The chapter's message is clear. Beware of making habits a ceiling instead of a floor. In other words, let your habits support your growth, not limit it. Chapter 21. The Cardinal Rule of Behavior. Change. In this short but powerful chapter, Clear introduces the cardinal rule of behavior change. Behaviors that are immediately rewarded get repeated. Behaviors that are immediately punished get avoided. This ties back to the fourth law. Make it satisfying. But here, Clear drives the point home with clarity. Our brains are designed to seek instant rewards. Long-term outcomes, even the good ones, are often ignored in the moment. That's why it's so hard to save money. No immediate gain. Eat healthy. Junk food is tastier now. Work out. Comfort wins today. To make a habit stick, you must find a way to reward it instantly. Even small things work, marking an X on a calendar. Saying yes out loud. Logging your progress in an EV app. It might feel silly, but it reinforces the habit loop and teaches your brain. This action. Positive feeling. Clear also explains that intrinsic motivation grows stronger over time. Eventually, the habit becomes the reward. But to get there, you need immediate signals of success in the beginning. The takeaway is this. Don't delay the dopamine. Find ways to enjoy the process today, not just the outcome tomorrow. Chapter 22. How to go from being merely good to truly great. In the final chapter of Atomic Habits, James Clear offers a final insight into how the best of the best separate themselves from the rest. It's not talent. It's not motivation. It's the ability to keep going when it gets boring. Clear writes, "The greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. The best athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs are not always the most passionate. They're the most consistent. They do the same basic things day after day, refining as they go. This is where habits meet mastery. To reach greatness, you must stick with the system long after it stops being exciting. Embrace the grind. Find satisfaction in the repetition. It's easy to do something once when you're excited. It's hard to do it 1,000 times when no one's watching. But that's the difference between average and elite. Clear reminds us, professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way." The chapter ends with a final encouragement. Fall in love with the process. Success is not a goal. It's a byproduct of your systems. You've just completed the full audiobook summary of Atomic Habits by James Clear, presented by Business Mentorship, where we bring the best business and self-development books to life through powerful, professional narration. Here's what you've learned. How tiny changes lead to remarkable results. The 4 laws of behavior. Change. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. How to redesign your environment, identity, and systems to build habits that last. Why success isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. If you found value in this audiobook, please support the channel by subscribing to Business Mentorship, liking and sharing this video with others on their personal growth journey, and leaving a comment to let us know what book you want us to cover next. Remember, change doesn't require massive action. It begins with one small step, taken consistently. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and keep building the habits that build your future. This is Business Mentorship, signing off. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep mentoring your mindset.